Satchidananda Rupaya Vishwotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadyasya yatonvayadi tarataschaiteshvabhignya swarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yatsurayaha Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharma Projita Ketavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Va Parerishwaraha Sadyo Hrudya Varudyate Trakritibihi Shushrushubistatchana. Hari Om and greetings from Niagara Falls. In September of 2016 and continuing to December of 2018, many of us explored Vedanta in Ramayana. This was a combination of five semesters or 2.5 years. And we flowed through Ramayana over 78 classes, 78 hours of Ramayana. In January of 2019, and continuing to right now, September 2021, we have been exploring the Vedanta in Bhagavata. Our course is called Vibha. This has been 6 semesters over the past 2.5 years. We had an extra semester last year in the summer. And so we have completed 92 classes, 92 hours of Vedanta and Bhagavata. And what better way to continue with Vedanta and Bhagavata than with a pariksha? We are going to begin with a examination, a test. Now, you all don't take me seriously. You especially don't take me seriously when I'm smiling like this. We are going to have one, but we're going to use this as a tool for a review. Okay? I'm going to ask you questions. You can answer in the chat, and naturally I'll explain the answer and more for each question. Everyone's ready? The preface or the pre-skanda, that is the pre-section to Srimad Bhagavatam proper, is called the Bhagavata Mahatmya. Bhagavata Mahatmya. And your question is, what are the names of Bhakti's sons? What are the names of Bhakti's sons? You can answer in the chat. And the answer is Viveka and Vairagya. Viveka and Vairagya, which is discrimination and dispassion, had become old. And the only way for them to become young again was through Bhakti, that is their mother. In this pre-skanda, I had shared with you what Bhagavata means. It is critical for you to remember this. Bhagavata is made up of 4 compounds. Bha means light. Ga means go. Va means best. And ta means boat. Light, go, best, boat. And the way to appreciate this is to go backwards. This is the best boat to go to the light, to knowledge, to joy. And why this pre-skanda is there? The context for Bhagavata is shared. Whenever there's some sort of ritual that we engage in, we tend to forget the purpose of that ritual. And so the Mahatmya teaches us that our rituals should be leading to virtues. Rituals should be leading to virtues. And if they're not leading to virtues, then that ritual is old. That's why Viveka and Vairagya, you see that they become old, they don't develop. We don't love what we do. So that's why Viveka and Vairagya is old in our life. It's not vibrant. So this pre-skanda is really to orient us to how much we need Bhagavata. Now, Vedanta in Bhagavata proper, Bhagavatam proper, a skanda means section. There are 12 sections. The first skanda, the theme is adhikari. Adhikari means a student or a disciple. Your question. How many questions does Rishi Shaunaka ask Rishi Ugrashava? How many questions does Rishi Shaunaka ask Rishi Ugrashava? And what's going to be hilarious about this is many of you who are not in the course are just going to guess right now. The answer is 6. The 6 questions that are asked are, what is the greatest good for all? Number 2, what is the purpose of God? The proper term used is avatara. Number 3, what is the performance of avatara? Number 4, what are the passings of avatara? Purpose, performance, passings. Number 5, what is the play? And that's where we are right now in terms of Sri Krishna's life. What is the play of our avatara? And number 6, what is the home of dharma? The implication being that Sri Krishna becomes unmanifest. Where does dharma live then? These 6 questions are being asked in Naimi Sharanya. This is a jungle in Bharat where Rishi Shaunaka is asking Rishi Ugrashava. Naimi Sharanya has a lovely etymology. Nemihi shiryate. Nemihi shiryate, which means where the mind becomes quiet. So where is Naimi Sharanya? I hope Zoom right now. I hope. And what's really awesome about these questions is that there's a grand ritual that is going on. A lot of karma is happening in this jungle, but they don't waste any time. While the ritual, while the karma is going on, what are they thinking about? They're thinking about God. They're thinking about avatara, which is why they're asking these questions. It's like if one of you was unmuted and you ask me, when is class finished? Then where is your mind, correct? Obviously not on class. The second skanda, the theme is sadhana, which means discipline or practices. What should a disciple do? Be disciplined. And your question is, what should every human do? What should every human do? Your answer? It's not that complicated. Sadhana. The answer is sadhana. You should practice being more disciplined, correct? So this is what Raja Parikshita is being encouraged to do, is to be disciplined, to devote himself to God, to Avatara. Specifically, the discipline that is to be prepared for is contemplation. If you don't know how to contemplate, you cannot become enlightened. You have to prepare for this. The highest contemplation is on Swarupa. Swarupa means your own spirit. Knowing that many are not prepared for that. To prepare for this, one should contemplate on Vishwarupa. That is to feel divinity all around you, in nature, as an example. For many of us, that's too difficult too. So the preparation for that is contemplation on Ishta Rupa, which means a personal form and name of the divine. What a framework. Is first, I try to find God in an icon. Then that starts to grow to my home, to my neighborhood, to my job. And finally, it should grow for me to feel the comfort I have with myself in all circumstances. That's why we chant Satyam Param Dhimahi. That is what Bhagavata is all about. In the second skanda, the original Bhagavata is taught. The original Bhagavata is only 4 verses. The Bhagavata we're studying is 18,000. That's why it's taking 5 years. But the original is only 4. And essentially, here is what Bhagavan Narayana teaches Bhagavan Brahma. He teaches him infinity is real. That's the first teaching. The second teaching, illusion is unreal. The third teaching, creation is relative. And the fourth teaching, extraction is release. The idea being is, in creation, sense that this is relative so that you can be freed to be absolute. The third skanda, the theme is Sarga. Sarga means fundamental creation. Fundamental creation. It would be like the creation of the elements, space, air, etc. Your question is, what do Jaya and Vijaya symbolize? The two Dwarapalas, the gatekeepers of Bhagavan Vishnu, Bhagavan Narayana, what do they symbolize in our lives? A calm and quiet mind is good. My door lock and my alarm system. If one doesn't work, there's another. It is a calm body and a quiet mind. In the language of virtues, they would be considered Dhamma and Shama. That's who Jaya and Vijaya symbolize. They had lost their Dhamma and Shama, so they were no longer eligible to be called Jaya and Vijaya. And so who did they become? 3 sets of brothers. And these brothers were all asuras, which means that there was darkness inside of them. So that's who Jaya and Vijaya had become. And we've studied who these brothers have become. Right now, we're focused on the last set of brothers, which is Shishupala and Dantavaktra. We will reacquaint ourselves to them soon. And my point is that or the point of Bhagavata is, we can call ourselves whatever. Like, as I look around, I see Rekha and Somya and Praveen and Shanti. Do you live like that? Or is it just your name? That we can't just have such names. We have to have those virtues also. Skanda 4. The theme is Visarga. Visarga means functional creation. This is where air and fire and water, they become more. They become humans, correct? My body is made up of these elements. That's a combination, as an example. Your question, what framework does this skanda flow through? The teachings in the skanda goes through a framework I didn't create. I come up with useless frameworks. This is a very useful framework. Yes, the purusharthas, or the purposes of living. The personalities that this is taught through is daksha. One learns about dharma. Dhruva, one learns about artha, or possessions. Prithu, Raja Prithu, one of the greatest leaders in our culture, we learn about kama, or position. And Puranjana, we learn about moksha, or peace. So those are highlighted. Focusing on Raja Prithu, he has shared that anyone who cares for anyone else. So as an example, I care for my parents. They're alive. I try to help them. Everyone who cares for another being has 3 responsibilities to provide them with ease, employment, and education. So now you think about someone you care for. Do you make them feel more at ease? Employment here doesn't mean with dollars. It means, do you engage them? Do you encourage them to be more focused? Have a passion for whatever. And education. Do you help them to feel more independently joyous? These are the 3 responsibilities. This skanda tries to teach us there are only means if they're leading to the ends. See, if I think that I'm engaged in dharma, but it's not making me closer to moksha, then is it dharma? It's not. Skanda 5. The theme is sthana. Sthana means to be established. This skanda focused on the landscape for which or on which humans lived. Your question, who is Bharata? Who is Bharata? Bharata is the son of, starts with an R. Rishabha. Good. Rishabha. Bhagwan Rishabha, in Jainism known as Rishabha Deva, he manifested to show what it means to live as an ideal grahastha and sannyasi, that they're not mutually exclusive, that the vision of a grahastha, the vision of a sannyasi should be the same. His son's name was Bharata. And he was just as great, which is why our culture and religion is sourced in Bharata Varsha. It is this Bharata from which India, as an example, is called Bharata. In this skanda, what is very unique too is a detailed description of Naraka. What is the English word for Naraka? Hell, or our minds sometimes, correct? The purpose of hell in Sanatana Dharma is so we stop engaging in nisheda. Nisheda means that which is wrong, that which is prohibited. See how hell serves a very noble function, actually. But if I keep engaging in that which is wrong and prohibited, that means I haven't learned from that experience. What frustrates me a lot, and I'm sure with you too, is when you put a dish in a dishwasher and it still comes out dirty, correct? And then you blame it on your spouse. Even though you rinsed them and you loaded it, but you still blame them. See, what's the point of the dishwasher? Swami Chinmaya has described hell as a laundry machine. You get pushed and pulled, but you are supposed to come out, cleaner. The sixth skanda is poshana. Poshana. Poshana means to nourish. How did humans not just survive, but how did they thrive? How did they thrive? Your question is, what is the subject? What is the main focus of this skanda? And it's not the poshana that I'm describing. That's a very technical answer. What is the more subjective answer? What is the subject of this skanda? Good. And many of you are sharing. Grace, it is tat anugraha, which means God's grace. Tat anugraha means God's grace or grace. And one of the great expressions of this is Ajamila. How Ajamila named his son Narayana, and through that, God's grace saved him in many, many, many ways. In this skanda, some other important parts were the Narayana Kavacha. Do you remember we went through that? About how to establish Bhagavan Narayana in your whole system. Someone was recently telling me that when they engage in their long distance running, they put in that Narayana Kavacha into themselves, which is so awesome. You can buy Under Armour or you can set up Narayana Kavacha, correct? It's better for the environment, it's free. And we also explored one of the greatest bhaktas in Bhagavatam. Do you remember what its name was? Starts with a V. Now you're supposed to write Vivek, but Vritra will also work. Vritra, one of the greatest lovers of God, was an asura. Skanda 7, the theme is Uti. Uti essentially means one's blueprint. How come I'm different from my sisters? How come my neighbor and my next neighbor, they think differently, they act differently? So it's about blueprint, vasanas. Your question is, who is the Maha Bhagavata in Bhagavatam or in life? Who is the Maha Bhagavata? Who is the greatest of the great in terms of loving Bhagavan? Yes, Rishi Prahlada, Bhakta Prahlada. What's great about Bhakta Prahlada is everything, but one aspect is he was born in more adversity than any of us were born in. Our parents may not have cared for us the way we wanted them to care for us, but his father tried to assassinate him. Countlessly. Checking in with all of you, you can hear and see me clearly? Good. And Rishi Prahlada teaches us how we can transcend adversity. He says, Bhakti hi chet nava lakshana. He gives 9 steps on how to climb out of adversity into peace. These are the famous signs of devotion. That was all taught here. This skanda ends with the responsibilities of every position in life. And I shared with all of us, for those who are grihastas, those who are living as a family, what are your two primary responsibilities as shared in Bhagavatam? They both start with G. Good. Generosity is the second one. What is the first one? Yes, to be grateful and generous. See, if you're not grateful, your generosity will be with ego or will be limited. But if you're grateful, your generosity becomes quite natural, quite spontaneous. Skanda 8, Sat Dharma. When you put those words together, Sadharma. Sadharma. If I were to write this out to you, what would it be sounded as? Sad dharma. If you do this, you'll be sad. Sad dharma. Your question is, what is needed to evolve from dharma to sat dharma? What is needed to evolve from dharma to sat dharma, to go from being a good person to being a great person? Maximum effort, yes. And these skandhas are so beautifully connected that we all have vasanas and we're good people, but we still have vasanas. How do I come out of these vasanas? 4 virtues are needed. Here they are. Smarana. One has to perpetually remember God. We explored this through Gajendra. Next, Dana. Dana. And we explored this through Indra. Different kathas relating to Gajendra, to Indra. Smarana means perpetual remembrance. Dana means perpetual generosity. Then, Pratignya. Perpetual commitment. And this was explored through Raja Bali. Remember, he promised, I'll give you 3 steps, and he never backed down from that commitment. And Raksha, perpetual independence. Raksha does mean protect, but how do you protect another? By making them independent. And that we explored through Satyavrata. Remember, he protected that fish again and again and again. Smarana, Dana, Pratignya, Raksha. In this 8th skanda, another awesome portion we explored was the churning of the Milky Ocean. Do you remember the first substance that came out of the Milky Ocean? What was the first substance? Kala Kuta. It was this, Kala means black, Kuta means heap. And it was poison, the most poisonous. And what was the last substance that came out of our personalities? What will be the last feeling in our personality? Lakshmi. See, that's our typical American response. Amrita, which means peace, was the final to come from our own personalities. When we start to live by humility, surrender of vasanas kicks in. So I asked you, how do we go from dharma to sadharma? Is to infuse more humility. And part of humility means being patient, not being as controlling. It's hard for us, no? Skanda 9, Nasha. Nasha means destruction. Destruction of what? Vasanas. See the beauty of all of these skandhas connected. So your question is, what virtue does skandhas 9 to 11 signify? What do they magnify? 9, 10, and 11, they all are focused on the same virtue. Good, it is trust. And I'll explain. Skandhas 1 and 2 they try to nurture identification in us, to identify as a disciple, to identify with discipline. Skandhas 3, 4, and 5 try to nurture belief in our personalities. That's why it's more science-oriented, about creation, fundamental, functional, right? People are very much into science. I feel they have more belief, but they lack faith. Then, skandhas 6, 7, and 8 naturally focus on faith. You have to let go of belief and hold on to faith. And the 9, 10, and 11, it is trust. To trust you are more, to trust in your original parent. The 3 ways that we can engage in nasha of our vasanas. Systematically, it starts with vasana kshaya. Vasana kshaya means exhaustion. When you have a light vasana, when you experience it, what happens to it? You let go of it. The second is called vasana parivartana, which in English means substitution. Exhaustion, substitution. When you have a vasana that is medium in weight, if you keep doing it, what's going to happen? It's going to become heavy. So what do you have to do? Practice the opposite. Parivartana. Once you've exhausted light vasanas and you've substituted medium vasanas, the heavy vasanas, that can only happen through vasana nasha, and that is by trusting in your original parent. You have to let go of external security, including the body. In this skandha, we came across such amazing personalities like Raja, Ambarisha. He had no body identification, correct? And then Bhagirata. How intense his disciplines were to help humanity. Bhagwan, Rama, which one? Parashurama. And finally, Bhagwan, Rama. Now we are on Skandha 10. You asked me what Bhagavata is, so now I'm sharing with you. I am summarizing 2.5 years in 25 minutes. Either you hate me or love me right now. Here's your question. First of all, the theme of Skandha 10 is Ashraya. Ashraya means surrender. Ashraya means support. You surrender to the absolute support. Your question is, why does Bhagwan manifest? Why does Bhagwan manifest? Why does God incarnate? Good. Marga Darshana. To show people, to restore dharma, to protect the wise. This is all 95% correct. I will share with you the 100% correct answer, starting with the 95%. When there is minimum compromise in society, a sadhu can correct that. A noble, dynamic personality can correct society. When there's maximum compromise, an ambassador of God cannot correct that. God has to correct that. And this is why in our culture, the word satya, which we often describe as truthfulness, in our community, we have described that as non-compromise. Yes. Those who don't compromise, where are they living? In Satya Yuga. Those who compromise, how are they living? In fear. Maximum compromise. And what's so difficult about the society we're living in right now is that our leaders are disguised as leaders when they're actually compromising on their own values and promoting the same. Yes? How many references you would have to the economy is more important than the environment? Yes? Isn't that a compromise? We can live without the economy, sort of. We can't live without the environment. Yes? Even if you think of Afghanistan right now, they can live without politics. They can't live without food. That's the 95% answer to protect the noble and to correct the ignoble. The 100% correct answer, it is to bless. Why does Bhagavan manifest? Just to bless. And this is so overt in all of the asuras who tried to kill Bhagavan. What did he do? Moksha here, moksha there. Like it's candy. You can have some, you can have some. I wish I was that asura. I look like one, but I wish I was like that asura to get that candy also. So that's one aspect, but then we go to the exact opposite in the gopis, correct? So much of the gopi culture that we explored in detail, all of them were blessed too with moksha. So why does Bhagavan manifest? You can give me the technical answer, but I want you to start trusting that the factual answer is to bless. So this idea of Marga Darshana, he's walking the path just for us to see him and be blessed by that. One more highlight from Skanda 10, and this is where we're at now. We are in the second portion of Bhagavan Krishna's life where he has more responsibilities. He's left becoming a farmer, but he's just as cheerful. When we think back to when we were in high school, college, we were so cheerful, and then responsibilities came, and what happened? We became the opposite of what Bhagavan Krishna is. What a practical message. How was your pariksha? Everyone got 10 out of 10. Remember, 2.5 years we've flowed through. 92 hours has been condensed into 25 minutes. I'm going to continue reviewing from our last class, and then we'll continue our celebration in the next class. Right now, Bhagavati Rukmini is in Kundina. Kundina is in Maharashtra. It is where Bhagavan Vitthala, for those who have been there now, he is very important. And she has sent a message to Bhagavan Krishna, and Bhagavan Krishna has received this message, and so he's on his way to Kundina to be with Bhagavati Rukmini. Who else is coming? Shishupala and his friends. Because they want to marry, he wants to marry Bhagavati Rukmini. One of his friends, his name is Chanura. You've heard this before. I had read an interesting commentary. His name was Chanura because he made everyone into churna. He powdered everyone. So knowing this, Shri Balarama, he knew that Shishupala, Chanura are coming. So he's on his way to Kundina too. It's like this epic gathering of these forces. Now, Bhagavati Rukmini has just left Bhagavati Parvati's mandir. She's waiting, looking for Shri Krishna, and she spots him. That is her prasad from being at that mandir, no? And then what happens? I will read to you again. When Shri Krishna captivates and captures Bhagavati Rukmini, he starts leaving Kundina. And she's afraid of what's going to happen. Rahasya Bhagavan aha masma bhevama lochane vinangshatyat yudaine vetat Tavake Shatravam Balam. I had read all of this too already in the previous class. I'm reading it again. He shares with Bhagavati Rukmini, don't be afraid. If they want to fight, I will fight. And so Shishupala and team, they start to fight Bhagavan Krishna to bring Bhagavati Rukmini back, but they're unable to. And specifically, Jarasandha, he withdraws. And why I'm pointing that out to you, many times in Bhagavatam, Jarasandha had as if won over Bhagavan Krishna. But here he's withdrawing, and what that shows is how Shri Krishna is just playing. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Then, when all of those forces withdraw, Vidivat upayeme kurut vaha. Bhagavan Krishna and Bhagavati Rukmini get married. Vaha, they lift each other up according to Vedic tradition. See, they had their Las Vegas drive-through wedding, literally, but then they did have their traditional Vedic wedding also. You may not know this, but one of Bhagavan Krishna's names is Vivaha. That is his actual name. Bhagavati Rukmini was his first marriage. 7 more are coming. That's why I said our celebration will continue in the next class, where we will probably have 3 weddings next class, 3 more weddings the class after that, and then we'll have 1 communal wedding at the end of the month. While in Dwaraka, Dwarakayam abhut rajan mahamoda puraukasam rukminya ramayo petam drishtra krishnam shriyafpitam. All of the people in Dwarka were so happy because they felt that Bhagavati Rukmini and Bhagavan Krishna belonged together. And I'm rereading this to all of you because you should feel like you are the citizens of Dwaraka. And the symbolism of this is Bhagavati Rukmini symbolizes generosity. And Bhagavan Krishna symbolizes dakshina. Or let me change the words, generosity and gratitude, or dana and dakshina. That is what their marriage shows. There was no stealing here. If I'm grateful and I become generous, it's not like who I'm offering to is stealing from me. This is all natural. It's supposed to be. And for the sake of new content, I'll just read 1 verse. This is new. You've not studied this. I'll review next week. Sa eva jato vedharvyam Krishna virya samudbhavaha. Then born from the princess of Vidarbha, from the strength of Bhagavan Krishna, who was born? Pradyumna iti vikhyataha sarvato navamah pituhu. Bhagavan Krishna's first child is Pradyumna. And he was equal to Bhagavan Krishna in all ways.